You are now watching I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel.
I shot him 6 times! What is going on, horror fanatics? Welcome to I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel, and welcome to episode 2 of the I Shot Him 6 Times horror movie podcast. In today's episode, I will be covering and doing a spoiler review on The Exorcist Believer. Many of you know this film came out in, I want to say, early October of 2023. This was somewhat of a anticipated film. A lot of fans, were iffy about it even being released. And, once it was released, this film was not met with a lot of positive reviews. I will go on and talk about why I personally did not care for this film and where I feel like they went wrong with it in terms of what they could have done better, why it failed ultimately in the eyes of the public, and what's going to happen going forward. We know that David Gordon Green, who was supposed to be the director for this planned new trilogy for the Exorcist franchise, for these 3 films that they had planned, he exited the project. He's not going to be directing Exorcist Deceiver. So we're going to also talk about that as well, talk about who could direct the next film, what the next film could be focused on based on what we saw in this first film, Exorcist Believer, and just, go down this rabbit hole, you guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I am a big fan of the Exorcist franchise. Well, I shouldn't say the entire franchise. I'm a big fan of the first and the third movies. The other movies really haven't done it for me. Exorcist Believer, you can add that to the list now. And but I still have hope. I still have hope for this franchise. And the reason why is because, and you guys know this, I'm not super big into the paranormal side of horror movies. This is one of those franchises and one of those movies I can get into. I've always been a fan of The Exorcist because I feel like The Exorcist has paved the way for paranormal movies to be made, and to the extent that we see it today. Over the last 20-something years, we talk about it all the time. Paranormal movies, exorcism movies has dominated the horror genre. So The Exorcist for me was the reason why that was made possible. So I still have hope that we could get better Exorcist films made, and that's what I'm hoping for in the future. So this is going to be a fun episode, you guys. I'm really excited to talk about this. I'm excited to share my thoughts. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say as well. If you haven't done so already, shoot this episode of the podcast a like. It definitely helps out with the YouTube algorithm a ton. Also, share this to all your social media platforms. Again, it helps out the channel, helps get more noticement. That's not even a word. Helps the channel get more noticed and stuff. Just trying to grow the audience here so we can, get a bigger crowd and, talk horror movies and talk about the stuff that we love here in this community. So before I do get into everything, this is how I'm going to do it, you guys, is I'm going to give you guys my spoiler review for Exorcist Believer. It's probably going to be about a 10-15 minute talk before, I can start answering chats and questions and stuff like that. I am going to acknowledge the chat before I do get into my spew. I know some of you guys have been waiting since 9:30 this morning. I do want to apologize for that. I will tell you guys a crazy, interesting story. I was planning to be to bed by 2 a.m. last night. I was doing a lot of stuff. I was putting a lot of streams together. I was, setting things up for the channel, stuff like that, tinkering with some other stuff. And then I had realized, man, you haven't done merch in a while. Like, you haven't created no new merchandise for the channel in a while. So I started, I realized, online you can get, like the Scream movie fonts, the Halloween movie fonts and stuff basically for free and stuff like that. So I just went down this rabbit hole last night of creating some new Scream merchandise for the channel and stuff like that, and coming up with ideas for Halloween merchandise and Saw merchandise, so on and so forth. So I literally was up to 5 a.m. this morning putting stuff together for merchandise when I really should have been in bed by 2 so I could be up this morning for this 9:30 episode of the podcast that I had planned. It did not work out that way. It did not work out well. I ended up falling asleep at like 5 in the morning and then sleeping into like 10:30, 11 o'clock. And then I realized, shit, I'm late for the episode of the podcast. So I just decided to reschedule, and I did multiple reschedules of this episode or whatnot and stuff, hoping that I could be in at the times that I wanted to be in at. It didn't work out that way because I wanted to get this stream like really set up really nice, have some overlays while I do the spoiler review, stuff like that, add some music to the episode and all that stuff, which I'm about to start playing here in a second, whatnot. But basically, just nothing worked out the way that I wanted to this morning because I decided, like a dickhead, to stay up till 5 in the morning last night doing merchandise and stuff like that. So guys, I apologize if you have been waiting since 9:30 this morning for this episode of the podcast to talk about Exorcist Believer. I truly am sorry. That was not my intention to be this late. But hey, we are here now, and this is definitely going to be a fun time. Get to you guys' comments in the chat. And I do want to say this real quick. Val, and I know you were here this morning, Val, so hopefully you come in here at any point in the stream while I'm on. I'm going to go for 2 hours. I'm going to go from start at 1:30. I'll be going till 3:30. And I also do want to point this out as well. If you guys haven't seen it in the community share that I did last night, I had to reschedule this as well based on, me having to reschedule this stream. But at 4:30, I have it scheduled now for 4:15, but it is going to be 4:30. I'm going to end up, after the stream, we're just rescheduling it for them. But at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time here on the channel, I will be doing another episode of the podcast, episode 3, where I will be giving my Terrifier 1 and 2 film spoiler reviews, as well as talking some theories going into part 3 of Terrifier. I have become enamored with this franchise. I just rewatched both the first and second films so recently, and the more I watch them, the more love I grow for the Art the Clown character in the Terrifier franchise. So I'm really excited to get into that, go down that Terrifier rabbit hole and see what could happen for part 3. So stay tuned, guys. You guys are still getting 2 episodes of the podcast today. But I do want to say, Val, I greatly apologize for my tardiness. I knew you have been dying to talk about Exorcist Believer for a little bit now. I was supposed to do this about a month ago. I wanted to dig into it about a month ago, and it just didn't work out that way. So I had some time this week. I was like, you know what? Let's do content this week in terms of podcast episodes, in terms of live streams. Let's catch up on some of these movies that you may have talked a little bit about, but you really didn't get to dig into. So that's what I'm going to be doing this week here on the channel in terms of the podcast. But again, Val, I greatly apologize, and hopefully you can come join us here while we go down this rabbit hole, and while I give you guys my spoiler review and discuss Exorcist Believer and what I think is going to be happening for Exorcist Deceiver, if they're even going to make that movie still. We have to, they have to get a new director and get a new release date. So definitely going to be an interesting conversation. But again, Val, I apologize. Hopefully, you come back in, just, leave a comment, let me know what's up. And obviously share your thoughts and opinions. I'm very interested in see what you have to say, Val, about Exorcist Believer. Again, I know you've been wanting to talk about it for quite some time now. Oh, that's my comment. Spoof. Let's go. Hey, what's up, Dom? Hope you're having a great day, my friend. Dominic St. Clair saying, yeah, I liked Exorcist 3. Yeah, man, I liked Exorcist 3 as well. I thought that was a really good, follow-up to the second one, especially because the second one, I get where they were trying to go with the second one. It just didn't hit home for me. It was just too much storytelling and not enough action. We needed more action in that second film. And Exorcist 3 definitely got back to the roots of the original, my opinion. You had the storytelling, but you also had the action. So, and of course, we had Brad Dourif in that movie as well. I think a lot of people forget that Brad Dourif played in The Exorcist 3. So it had a great cast. It was definitely a return to form in Exorcist 3. Yes, I agree, Dom. Dom saying The Exorcist started the grimy feel of horror and very dark and dirty tone. Yes, I agree. 100%. Especially from a paranormal side, because we see a lot of paranormal movies, and I'm not saying they don't go dark, but they don't go dark in the way that the original Exorcist did. Like the original Exorcist was a really dark movie. And what I think, I will say this before I get to my spoiler review for Believer, where I think Deceiver unfortunately fails at, and in my opinion, going into this movie, I kind of already figured this was going to be the case given the runtime, how long the movie was going to be. The reason why, in my opinion, Exorcist Believer did not live up to the hype or to the hope that it would be a good film is because the original Exorcist movie was what, 3 hours long? If I'm not mistaken, 2.5, 3 hours long. Plus, eventually they had some bonus content that ended up coming out. So that was a really long movie. That was a really long, that was a really long story. They had a lot of things going for itself with The Exorcist, the original. You had the story of Ellen Burstyn's character, Chris McNeil. She's an actress. She's a single mother. You have all that storytelling going on. The trials and tribulations of being a single mother and being a dominant actress in Hollywood and stuff like that. You had the story of Reagan McNeil, with the Ouija board and Captain Howdy. Or I'm thinking maybe wrestling in that term, wherever the fuck his name is, and stuff like that. I have to go rewatch the original again to really remember that because it's been a while. But yeah, you had multiple layers in the story in the original Exorcist, and that was because of the runtime. It was a long movie. You had a lot of room to tell this story and to lead in to the possession and to show the transformation into the possession. It was a really slow burn. And given that this movie, Exorcist Believer, was only pegged to be about 2 hours long, me being a fan of the original, I was like, ugh. If they're going to try to tell a story, it's going to be really hard for them to hook that story in this amount of time because there's going to have to be layers to it like the original, because that's what made the original so great. You had all those layers to that story. You had multiple things going on. And then even the side characters, like with the director of Chris McNeil, the guy who ended up dying, I forget his name as well. Again, it's been a while since I watched the original Exorcist movie, but even the side characters, there was storytelling going on with those characters as well as they go through this, entity and experience this entity with Chris McNeil while she's watching her daughter Reagan, basically turn into the devil. So there was definitely multiple layers to the original Exorcist film, and that was contributed again to the runtime. It had a lot of room to work with, almost a 3-hour movie. Exorcist Believer only had about 2 hours. So you're taking away about an extra hour worth of content if you were trying to really hook this story in. And I believe they really did try to hook this story in. And we're going to get into why I believe that. But again, I have hope. That the next Exorcist film, if they get the right guy, and I have a guy in mind, if they get the right guy to direct the next film, I think the Exorcist franchise can be saved. So I will say that. But I agree with you, Dom, 100%. And Chris Sims, what's going on, man? Thank you for the $5 super chat. I greatly appreciate it. Chris saying, what up, Mark? Keep up the good work, bro. I greatly appreciate that, Chris. Thank you, man. Thank you for the $5 super chat, man. Like that's awesome. Like, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. And I will do my best to continue up the good work, my friend. I'm trying to get more content out here for you guys. I know, some days it can be really difficult. I can't, I don't post anything, whatnot, and stuff like that because, work and all that stuff. But I'm trying my best. You know what I mean? I'm definitely trying my best to get more content out here for you guys. And that's why I decided to have the podcast, and I'm just going to have to do this within myself. I'm just going to have to cap myself at going to bed at like 1 or 2 in the morning, because if I'm going to be doing these podcasts in the morning, I want to be on time here for you guys and not have to keep rescheduling and all that stuff. And that's why I chose to set these episodes of the podcast in the morning and stuff like that, so that I can leave myself more room in the afternoon and possibly the evening to do other content as well. Get out my normal regular 5 to 10 plus minute videos that I do, so on and so forth. So again, Chris, thank you for your $5 super chat. I greatly appreciate it, and I will do my best to keep up the good work. And for your super chat, I have a clip for you, my friend. Man, I'm mad because I think I deleted the one, and it was the funniest one I had. I think I did. I'm gonna have to do, I definitely, that's another thing I got to get on too. I got to get more clips loaded up on here. But for your $5 super chat, Chris, how about a little bit of some Lion King? We'll go with that. If it pull up. Okay. So for some reason it won't play the clip. Okay, so Streamer is being a little. There you go. Finally decided to play after about 10 clicks. I don't understand it. But there you go, Chris. Thank you so much again for your $5 super chat, my friend. I greatly appreciate it. See, Val, we're on the same page. We're on the same page, Val. We are on the same page. I'm definitely going to dig into that too. I'll give it away now. That is my pick to take over the Exorcist franchise, and I'll dig into why here once I'm done with the spoiler review and we go down this rabbit hole. But we're on the same page, Val. I mean, Blumhouse and him have that deal where they're going to be making all these new horror movies and stuff. So why not add Exorcist to the list? I would love for James Wan to do an Exorcist film. I think he would flourish at it. I mean, look at The Conjuring. And you put me on to that, Val, which is why I believe that. That's right, man. Chris saying you're good. You keep Scream 4 alive for us. I try, man. I know some people don't like Scream 4, but I think that that's the best sequel in the entire Scream franchise. So, you know what I mean? I love the characters. You already know I love Charlie Walker and stuff. I just think that that's a really good Scream movie. I think it's the second best one in the franchise. It just gives you 96 vibes all the way through. That's right. That's right, Dom. That's so right. Chris saying, "Oh my God, LOL." Yeah, man. I saw that clip and I'm just like, yeah, this has to get downloaded. Agreed, Dom. Agreed, 100%. All right, guys. So let's get into it here. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into my spoiler review for The Exorcist Believer. And I will start off again by saying, I mean, I really wasn't a big fan of this movie. I felt the trailer gave away entirely too much, especially in terms of the quote unquote twist. By the time we got to the movie, it wasn't a twist anymore. And I feel like if you when you're promoting that only one of these girls is going to live, well, where's the twist at? You know, like the twist is supposed to be we're not supposed to know if one of them is going to live or one of them is going to die. We're not supposed to know that. And immediately we knew that in the trailer. So I'll start off the spoiler review by saying that, like the supposed twist of the movie that we weren't supposed to know who was going to live, who were going to die, that was already ruined going into the trailer with the promotion. Now, obviously, Exorcist Believer, we pick up with Leslie Odom Jr.'s character. He, who is Victor Fielding. He is a young man who, if I could, I'm about to say this, him and his wife, you know, something happened with his wife. I want to say they were overseas or something like that. It looks like they could have been at a like some type of like I don't even know how to explain it. It's like it kind of looks like a homeless shelter to a degree, you know. And I just watched this movie the other day, and I still couldn't hammer it down exactly where they were at. But the premise of Exorcist Believer is we are following this guy in Victor Fielding, who at the beginning we start off, we see him, we see his pregnant wife, and basically his wife ends up dying. She ends up getting killed and stuff like that, to where, well, she ends up dying because, you know, I can't even remember it at this point. This is so bad. You know, this is how bad this movie is to me that I don't even want to remember certain things about it. But basically, the premise is we are following Victor Fielding, and his wife passes away, and she's pregnant with his child, obviously. And he's forced to make a choice whether to let his wife live if they can save her, or let the baby die. And she basically tells him to let her die. You know, the child has to live. And he actually had doubt about this. He wasn't going to. He wanted his wife to live. He was actually willing to sacrifice his child in order for his wife to live. But subsequently, that did not happen. His wife did end up dying, and he ended up obviously keeping his daughter in Angela Fielding. And it's also worth to note as well that one of the main premises of this movie, and it's obviously the tagline in the title, Exorcist Believer, Victor is not a believer of God. He is not a religious man. And that plays out throughout the entire movie, basically for his character. The reason why his daughter ends up becoming possessed is because subsequently, now that's not the real reason why, you know, his daughter becoming possessed isn't the real reason why, like, she becomes possessed. There's, you know, another reason why she becomes possessed. But the whole premise of this movie, in terms of his daughter becoming possessed, is to turn him into a believer of God in so many ways. That is the premise and the direction for this character's story. Now, obviously, we get the return of Ellen Burstyn as well. It is revealed that Chris McNeil, after all these years, that she basically did a book on the events of her daughter Reagan, and that is what basically made her and Reagan's relationship sour. And I had my qualms going into this movie about how they were going to utilize Ellen Burstyn. I knew she was going to basically be a side character, but I did not expect her to be this much out of the loop, if I'm being honest. Like, I expected her character to have a greater meaning to the story based on what we saw in the trailer with, you know, Olivia O'Neill's character, Catherine, with her writing Reagan and stuff like that. I thought that the mentioning of Reagan was going to have a greater meaning with this character of Ellen Burstyn's character of Chris McNeil returning. And that did not turn out to be the case. She was literally there just to basically subsequently help Victor Fielding figure out why this is happening and what is going on, and try to find out how to combat it. And I felt like it was a waste of the character's return. It was a complete waste. The reason why I believe it was a complete waste is, why go through all these loops of bringing the character back, even going as far as having one of your new demons, in so many ways, one of your new entities, bring up her daughter's name when, one, her daughter's not even present, and two, it doesn't fix into the story you're trying to tell with these newer characters. It literally felt like they brought Ellen Burstyn's character back just to subsequently attempt to kill her off. And I say attempt is because she did get attacked. She did get stabbed through the eyes with the cross, which I did feel was a really good scene. And I thought it was a really good scene in terms of brutality. And it was a little bit shocking because I did not expect that to happen to her. But at the end of the film, we do find out that she is still alive. And that's where we do see the appearance of Linda Blair as Reagan McNeil show up, but it's only for a brief few seconds. She shows up, she gives Chris a hug while she's in the hospital, and that's it. Like, was she name dropped throughout the movie? Yes, she was. They told the story about how Chris McNeil wrote that book, and that subsequently tarnished the relationship between her and Reagan. And I felt like in so many ways, especially this supposedly being a legacy sequel, this should have been the story they were trying to tell. This should have been the story they were trying to tell instead of Leslie Odom Jr.'s character and Victor Fielding. The story they should have been trying to tell should have been how Chris McNeil, after the events of her daughter's exorcism, she wrote the book about it, basically got even more fame than when she was already more famous for being an actress. And this was what soured the relationship with her daughter. But this also could have been a segue into possibly the entity returning, but not just returning in Chris. I've said it before this movie came out. I really wanted to see Ellen Burstyn become possessed in order to kill off the character or move on from the character in that fashion. I felt that would have been a nice little twist and homage to the original. The original had the daughter be possessed. Now the mother's going to be possessed. And obviously that did not happen in Exorcist Believer. And I felt like that should have been the direction they were trying to go in. I feel like now that I'm really going down this rabbit hole and I'm really finding my stride while talking about this movie, they tried to tell two stories at one time. Well, three in so many ways, because you got to count Catherine's parents and Miranda and the father. And they just didn't do a great job of executing how to tell three stories at once. And again, it goes back to the runtime. How do you expect to tell more than two stories at once in only a 2-hour movie for a film like The Exorcist? Now, other films can make that happen. Some slashers have been able to do it. But when you're talking about The Exorcist, what made the original so lovable and so successful, as I said earlier, was the fact that we got so much layered storytelling and everything pieced together. It was a real slow burn. In my opinion, you can't capitalize on the same formula in a 2-hour movie. It's just not possible. There's too much you're trying to tell. Entirely too much that you're trying to tell. And I feel like that is the biggest issue with The Exorcist Believer. You're trying to do too many things at once. You're trying to tell too many stories at once, but you don't have enough time to tell those stories. And then how we get to the point of telling the story of how the girls became possessed in the first place, it is so simple and so cliche to what we have already seen over the last 20-something years in the paranormal genre side of horror. Oh, we see, Angela Fielding. She wants to reach out to her mother. She wants that connection with her mother. So what does her and Catherine do? They go out to the woods and they basically, try to summon the spirit of Angela's mother. And that subsequently is how they both become possessed. And again, this is nothing new. This is nothing fresh. It is the same tired formula that we have seen in the paranormal side of horror for the last 20 plus years, for the last 2 decades. You did nothing new in terms of getting these characters, like taking us to the direction of how, taking us to the destination of how these girls become possessed. You followed a very simple formula that has become tired. What made the original so great in terms of leading into the possession of Reagan McNeil is that we had that long storytelling and that whole Ouija board aspect. And yes, you can sit there and say, oh, well, the Ouija board, that's always used in paranormal movies in terms of how you possess someone. And I'm not going to go against you for saying that. You are absolutely right about saying that. But at that time the original came out, that concept was fresh. Using a Ouija board, but not only just using a Ouija board, telling a deep story, a layered story behind that Ouija board, and how it's slowly, the character behind that Ouija board is slowly making its way. The entity is slowly making its way into this child in Reagan McNeil. You didn't have that with Exorcist Believer. All you had was these girls go out to the woods, they summon some shit, and now they're possessed. That's it. And to me, that is tired, and it hurts what could have been a really good legacy sequel. And the fact that you had these new characters involved, in my opinion, it was a waste of time. They didn't need to be there, honestly. Leslie Odom Jr.'s character, Victor Fielding, Angela Fielding, and Lydia Jewett, Olivia O'Neill's character, Catherine, her mother, all those new characters, in my opinion, there was no need to have these characters in this legacy sequel. No need at all. None whatsoever. I get it. That's the new trend, is we're going to do a legacy sequel while trying to introduce new characters. But sometimes that just doesn't work. And in this scenario, in this case with Exorcist Believer, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And the reason why it doesn't work is because, again, you tried to tell a story with your OG characters while also trying to tell a story with your new characters. The issue is there's not enough time. There's not enough time to do that. And then also what you did by bringing Ellen Burstyn's character back, by showcasing that she wrote a book, by showcasing that her and Reagan's relationship has become strained, all you did was make the fans want to see these characters be brought back and see the entity that haunted them many years ago find its way back into their lives based on this book that Chris McNeil ended up doing. And the reason why I say that is because in so many ways you can argue by Chris McNeil writing that book, she allowed the entity to come back. By keeping the entity alive in so many ways by writing that book, you're allowing that entity to come back into the picture. That's what you're doing. It's just like the old saying goes, if you talk about something so often, it'll end up happening. You could have had that type of film for Exorcist, in my opinion, for Exorcist Believer. I feel like that is the direction they should have went in. And again, just not enough time to tell these stories that they're trying to tell. And on top of that, there was really no killing. There was really no brutality. The special effects of the entity coming out of the girl's mouth, we've seen that before. We've seen it time and time again. We've seen it too many times. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to let the dogs do their annual bark session as they hear noise. This is what they do. You guys know that. But again, I just feel like too many avenues they were trying to take and not enough time to take those avenues. And again, the special effects and all that stuff, nothing we haven't seen before. Stuff coming out the mouth, it looked like some type of smoky type of entity. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like a big ass cloud of smoke that was like a certain design coming out of her mouth. And it just didn't hit with me. It just didn't. It really just did not hit at all with me. Like it was boring. Like I felt like the first 40 minutes of the movie, it was like, okay, I get it. Slow burn. This is how the original was. Let's see where we're going here. And then once we got to the possession, I was just like this. Really? This is what we're doing? Really? I've seen this before. The scene in the church. The body in the blood. The body in the blood. We've seen shit like that before. You can't give us something else? Now, I will say this. It's not all negative. It is not all negative. I will say that. I always find some positives in a negative situation. And let's go back to this image here of these girls, of both Angela and Catherine. And I do want to say this. I felt that Lydia Jewett and Olivia O'Neill, they were the best part of this movie. Them playing the girls, playing Angela and Angela and Catherine, that was the best part of this entire movie. Like, I felt like those young ladies absolutely rocked it in those roles. Honestly, I feel like that if I were to ever turn on this movie again, which I only did it the other day just so I can get refreshed and do this spoiler review, but the only reason why I would ever watch this movie again is because of the performance of these two young ladies. They absolutely did a fantastic job in their roles. And another bright spot, the makeup. Like, come on, y'all. Like, come on. She looks just like Reagan McNeil. She looks just like Reagan McNeil. And I think that that's why this disappointed me also as well in so many ways, is that you had this little girl look so much like Reagan. Looks so much like Reagan. She mentions Reagan when she's possessed. You have Ellen Burstyn, you have Chris McNeil. I felt like there just should have been so much more. There's so much more you could have done with this. But the makeup effects by Christopher Nelson. I mean, guys, we've seen what he did with the Halloween franchise with Michael Myers. I mean, this is no surprise. This guy, he's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal talent. Like, if I would have, I'll put it this way. If I would not know who Linda Blair was, or if I would have never probably watched, let's just say this. If I would have never watched the original Exorcist movies, excuse me, but I've seen pictures online of what Linda Blair looks like in the makeup as, Reagan McNeil when she's possessed. If I would have never watched that movie, if I'd only seen pictures online, you would have had me fooled that they probably de-aged Linda Blair. They de-aged Linda Blair. That's what I would have thought had I not watched the original Exorcist movie, had I not seen, that film and just only saw pictures online of the Reagan McNeil character in possession form. I would have thought that this was a de-aged version of that character. That's how fantastic of a job Christopher Nelson did with the makeup. She looks just like her. And guys, like, I really wanted this movie to do well. I really did. I really wanted this movie to do well. When the previews came out for it, I was like, you know what? It looks better than what I thought. What I hoped it would probably be. It looks good. And then once we got more trailers out and they start doing the whole promotion that, oh, only one of them will survive. It's like, well, fuck, you just gave away the fucking movie. If you would have shut your mouths about that aspect, this movie would have been a little bit better, in my opinion, for me. Because then I would have been basically on the edge of my seat. I would have been on a cliffhanger throughout the entire movie, wondering which one of these girls is going to live, which one of these girls is going to die, so on and so forth. You would have had me hooked. Even if I would have been mad at what I've been mad about, basically, not even mad, just disappointed about too many stories to be told and not enough time. I didn't like how the possession took place, stuff like that. If you just would have never promoted the fact that one of these girls was going to die, this movie would have been at least 5 times better for me to consume. Because then I would have been like, oh, man, one of them actually did die. It's not like the original where we see Reagan live. You know, like, you going into this movie, you knew you at least had to believe that these girls were going to survive based on what you've seen in the original, the happy ending, the feel good happy ending story, so on and so forth. Had they not put it in the trailer that one of these girls was going to die, it would have been better. I feel like that, out of all the things I mentioned, that alone single-handedly hurt this movie, was giving away that little twist. If you don't give away that little twist, I don't want to say I guarantee, but I'll put $1 up. I'll put 1 peso up that a lot of people would have liked this movie a lot more. They would have liked it a lot more. Now, I'm going to get into the whole deceiver aspect and what's going to happen going forward, or at least speculate on what could happen going forward. Now, I do want to point this out, is that I understand you got to look at the titles here. Exorcist believer, Exorcist deceiver. What did Angela's demon say to Victor when she was possessed, when they were about to do the exorcism and all that? God has played a trick on you. So the whole trick was to get Victor to basically say he believes in God. As I mentioned this earlier, remember, he did not believe in God. But the whole trick was to get him to admit that he believes in this moment, only to later deceive him and proved, at least in the devil's eyes, that God played a trick on him. Because basically what they did by having Victor's character choose his daughter to live over Catherine's character, over Miranda's daughter, by having him do that, they deceived and tricked the narrative that, okay, if you choose, they're both going to live. If you choose and say, I believe in God, these girls are both going to live. That's the whole trick. That is the whole trick right there. Again, guys, if you don't reveal that one of these girls is going to die in a trailer, imagine how much better that comes off. Imagine how much better that works. It works 10 times better. It just does. You don't say anything. That aspect, that holy shit, I got you to say that you believe in something that you truly don't believe in. But in order to save your daughter, I got you to say that you believe in something that you don't believe in order to sacrifice this other girl. But little do you know, that was just the beginning. I'm going to deceive you the second time around and show you that I was just lying. Your daughter's still on the hook. She's not out of the woods just yet. No pun intended. Like, if you would have just did it, if you would have never gave away the whole one of them is going to die or one will only live in the fucking trailers, this ending, this whole encapsulation on what Exorcist believer story is supposed to be would have been so much better. It just would have, man. Like, I really wish they would have sat there and thought about it in terms of promotion and be like, okay, leave that out of the promotion. Everything else, keep. But that part, you cannot put that in the trailer. You just can't. Because that gives away the surprise that we're trying to set up, not only at the end of this film, but the second film as well. So I just feel like they could have went. I personally wish they just would have went with the All Out Legacy sequel. They would have had Ellen Burstyn and Linda Blair's characters be the main focal point. But in terms of a storytelling standpoint, with the Victor Fielding character and the Angela Fielding characters, so on and so forth, I get where they were trying to go. I do. And it's not a bad direction. You just got to execute it better. That's it. The execution was piss poor. The elements are good. The elements of what you're trying to do is not bad. It's not. The concept of it is not bad. The execution wasn't executed properly. It just wasn't. It just wasn't, man. Now that I'm really talking about it, it's frustrating me because now I'm thinking about it like, man, if you just don't give away that aspect in the trailer, would have had a better movie, in my opinion. Everything just would have been, I feel like, heightened. Everything that we watched in that movie would have been like, you know what? Yeah, did they do a lot of things that were cliche? Sure. Yeah, was the possession of the girls a little lackluster? Sure. But the way they set that up to lead into the second film, that's pretty fucking genius. And they just didn't execute it properly. That's just all it is to it. That's all it is to it, in my opinion. All right, so I'm gonna get to some of you guys' chats here and see what you guys think about Exorcist Believer. See what some of you guys' comments and thoughts on it. And Val, I'm definitely interested to see what you have to say because I know you've been wanting to talk about it for a while. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It does play out throughout the entire movie. It really does. Like again, like if they just would have executed it, I, I just wish we could have a ban on certain things that get put in trailers. I really do. Because now that again that I'm really like thinking about it and thinking about the overall direction on where they were trying to take the ending and leading it into the next film, just don't. If you just shut up about it in the trailer, this would have been a lot better for me. I would be even more excited to watch Deceiver based on what I just spoke about. Because again, the concept, it's not a bad concept. It's not. Val says, no, Marcus, we must remember this is only the first chapter with bringing Reagan back at the end. Only gives me more hope. We will see more of them too. I do hope that we do see more. I guess I just wish they would have capitalized more on that story. I felt like that story of Chris writing that book, so many ways keeping the legend of Pazuzu alive. I feel like they could have segued into something really special with that. I do. And again, I really wanted to see Ellen Pierston get possessed. Damn it. I did. Because, I mean, let's be honest. Girl's up there. She ain't going to be able to make too many of these movies much longer. She's up there in age. And I just really wanted, if they're going to kill off the Chris McNeil character, I want them to go out with a bang. Why not switch roles? Have her be possessed, and now Reagan has to be the one to go through this exorcism and watch her mother be this demon that she once was. I really wish that's the movie we would have got. Hey, now that's not to say Exorcist Deceiver, we don't get that movie. I will point this out that we don't even know if any of these new characters are going to return for Exorcist Deceiver. We don't. David Gordon Green has exited Deceiver. The release date has been pulled. We don't even know if this movie is going to continue to be made. We don't. They might just shelf this shit. So, excuse me. Again, we don't know what's going to happen with Exorcist Deceiver, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that Exorcist Deceiver could serve more as a Linda Blair, Ellen Burstyn centric Exorcist film. Maybe they could try to do something like they did with part 2, but just obviously heighten it and, add a lot more action to that. I could see that happening. I guess I'm just a sucker for the original that I just really wanted to see Linda Blair more in this movie, see where this character has been, what she's been up to all these years after the events. We did get some backstory on Chris McNeil, which I liked that. I like that aspect of her character, which is why I wanted more. I didn't want them to waste that. I didn't. I didn't want them to waste Ellen Pearson the way that they did. And I feel like they did kind of waste her, in my opinion. Like, again, I love the attack scene. Something had to happen. I will say this, by them doing that, it softened the blow for me of not seeing her get possessed. Seeing something happen to her was a little bit shocking because it's something that I wanted to see, but I didn't think they'd have the guts to do it. I really didn't. I didn't think they'd have the guts to harm Chris McNeil in any shape, way, or form. I did not think she was going to get touched. I did not think she was going to get possessed, even though that's what I wanted. I literally thought, okay, however she plays into the story, she's just the help. She's the guiding light through this scenario. That's it. When she gets her fucking eyeball stabbed out, basically halfway through the movie, I was like, okay, some cojones. Okay, let's go. You know, but then after that, it's just like, it just went. This movie for me, now that I'm really talking about it and everything's like really clicking in my head and stuff, it's like this: up, down, kind of like T-Pain, up, down, up, down, up, down. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it had its highs, but it had its lows. And then when it got low, it got real low, limbo low. Like, it got low, in my opinion. But again, I love this franchise. Like, I love the original Exorcist and Exorcist 3 so much that I just want to see this franchise go back to its roots. If you got to give me a 3-hour fucking movie like you did with the original, I'm okay with that because I'm used to that. That's what I'm used to. I'm used to that slow burn, that structured, well-told storytelling, and then we get that big, massive payoff. That's what you have to do for the Exorcist films. Do it. Because I want this franchise to keep going. I want these films to keep being made. I think there's a lot of potential, especially in the landscape that we have been in over the last 2 decades. Paranormal movies, when there is no slashers going on, when there's no Michael Myers, when there's no Scream, when there's no Jason Voorhees, when there's no Freddy Krueger, when there's no Jigsaw John Kramer, when there's no Art the Clown left. These are the movies that most of us in the fandom, this is what we turn to. It's some creepy paranormal shit. So, with that being said, I really just hope that they get back to the roots of what made the original and the third one so good, in my opinion. Like, those 2 films are classics, in my opinion. I feel like Exorcist 3 doesn't get enough love. That's a damn good movie. A damn good movie. And I get that, Val, for sure. You know, this movie was tying together the past with the present. And I agree with that 100%. I just felt like they should have just executed. We needed more runtime. We needed more runtime, Val. That's just my take on it. We needed more time. If we would have gotten more time and a better execution on how we are leading into the possession, the fucking movie would have been badass, in my opinion. It would have been really good. Damn, like I said, I see, it's just like I said with Halloween Ends. I see where David Gordon Green is trying to go with these concepts. It just, at the end of the day, with certain things, the execution, the poor execution, outweighs what great of a concept this actually is. That's it. If he could hunker down and really get that aspect of his horror game right, David Gordon Green could be one of the best horror movie directors out there, in my opinion. I just feel like it comes down to the execution of certain things within his concept. Yeah, great mind. Again, I love the concept. I really do. I love the concept that, okay, we have this character in Victor Fielding. We have this character who's not a religious person, who doesn't believe in God, so on and so forth. Now he is going through some shit in his life that has something to do with religious ties. He's entering unfamiliar territory to the point where, in so many ways, he is forced into saying, I believe in something that I really don't believe in order to save a life, in order to save my daughter's life. I like that concept. It's not a bad concept. It's just we needed to do better storytelling along the way. You know, maybe you should have just this should have just been the main focal point. Maybe you didn't need, in my opinion, you didn't need Ellen Burstyn to tell the story. Like Val said, they were trying to tie the past in with the present, and I get that. They didn't need to do that. If you just would have went with your concept and went with what your heart told you to do, you didn't need to bring Ellen Burstyn back. You didn't need to bring Linda Blair back. You really didn't. If you just would have centered this story completely around these new characters, this movie would have been 10 times better. Because of the concept that you had laid out. If you would have been able to just worry about this concept that you had for these new characters and this story that you have for these new characters without having to dig back into the past to bring into the future, it could have been a way better movie. Could have been a way better movie. It's like, I remember you said this about the Scream franchise, Val, with part 6, with Scream 6, when Nev wasn't coming back. Got to rip the Band-Aid off at some point, right? That's what they should have did with Exorcist Believer. Yes, I know the craze. All the craze right now is legacy sequels or legacy requels to where we get the iconic characters from the original films coming back and being put into roles with these new characters and these new actors. I get it. That's the craze. That's the formula nowadays. But you don't have to always do that. You don't always have to go that route in order to get the audience's attention. How you get the audience's attention is if you promote what you're really trying to do. You just promote what you're really trying to do. Just like with Scream. Look what Wes Craven did to Scream 1996. Nobody thought that movie was going to be a hit. Nobody knew that was going to become what it became. Exorcist Believer could have been that to a degree, but fans would have known, okay, well, wait, this is Exorcist. We know this. You know, the girl spins her head around. We know this. Okay, it's got a bunch of new characters and stuff. That's kind of expected. This is newer. This is updated times, stuff like that. Huh. You know what? I'm a fan of the original. I'm going to just go out and check this one out. If they would have just focused on what they wanted to do with these new characters and Angela Fielding and Victor Fielding, would have been made way better. Even though I personally would have liked a more centric Linda Blair and Ellen Burstyn story with the Chris McNeil and Reagan McNeil characters, because of the concept that David Gordon Green was trying to go with the storytelling, with Leslie Odom Jr.'s character and Lydia Jouette's character, we could have gotten a way better movie if he just would have focused on that. It kind of just frustrates me now that I'm really thinking about everything and thinking about how everything played out within this movie. We could have gotten a way better Exorcist movie. Because, again, Lydia Jouette, she fucking killed it. Her and Olivia O'Neill as Catherine, them girls killed it, y'all. Like, they did such a great job playing those roles. They did. And I wouldn't mind seeing Lydia back again. I just don't know if this is the direction we're still going to go in for Deceiver, because David Gordon Green's off the project. And it is also worth to note, according to reports, I read this in articles and stuff, that Leslie Odom Jr. and David Gordon Green didn't get along. So maybe this is why the movie came out the way it did. Maybe that's part of the reason why David wanted to bring legacy characters back and not completely 100% focusing on the story, so that in case if Leslie didn't want to come back for the second film and they weren't going to continue on this story, now he has a segue with the legacy characters to do an all-out legacy sequel. I could see that being a reason. Like, I could definitely see that happening if it would have happened that way. But Leslie Odom Jr. and David Gordon Green did not get along. So, just crazy. Val says, in a trilogy, we aren't going to get the full story. We have 2 more chapters to finish telling the story. That is true. That is true. But now we don't even know if we're going to get that story to be told. We don't. We don't know if we're going to finish that story and stuff. And at the same time, yes, come on, Don, you got to chill out, buddy. But at the same time, yes, are we telling the story? Does a trilogy tell the full story? Yes. Is the first chapter not going to tell the full story? No, it's not. But what are we exactly trying to do here? What story are you trying to tell? Is my question. Because we have too many stories here that we're trying to tell, and there's no encapsulation, really. There's not. Like, you brought Ellen Burstyn's character back. You told the story about the book. You told the story about her and Reagan, how they've been apart and how they've been estranged. But what, to me, what does that have anything to do with the new story that we're being told with these newer characters? I mean, yes, I get it. Trying to tie the past into the present. You know, Chris McNeil can be a help. You could have gotten many help. You could have gotten you could have gotten a priest like you subsequently did. Like, I just feel like this was just a waste. I really do. It was a waste. It was a waste of the Chris McNeil character. It was a waste of Reagan McNeil's character. She wasn't even in the movie. She waited to the end to even show her. Like, I just feel like this was a waste. The execution made it a waste. That's just me. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I get it. You know, we're trying to tell a story here, but what story are you exactly trying to tell other than the one I already figured out? Because my question is, okay, how does Chris and Reagan's story encapsulate and tie in with these people's story? I don't know. Maybe I'm not seeing it just yet, Val. Maybe I'm just not. But yeah, I can't fuck with it really. You know, maybe if I watch it a few more times and stuff like that, maybe I might have a change of perception. But I'm just it's just, I don't know. And again, it wasn't enough action for me. I needed more action. I need more things happening. Like, like, I'm all for the deep storytelling. I'm all for it. But you got to give me more action as well. You know what I mean? You can't doll me out with the story and then doll me out with the action as well. Like, and it's not even really that the story was dull. It's just, again, what story am I supposed to fucking follow here? Like, you know, like, that's just, I think that's where I'm at with it. Is I don't know which story to follow. I don't know which story to follow that is going to make me feel is going to have a greater meaning for the second and the third one. I guess that's where I'm battling with this movie. What's up, Nanette? Oh, I see you changed it a little bit. Saying Nanette's Blood Rose Horror Nightmare. I like that. I like how you put your first name in front of the instead of having the there. It just looks a lot better in my opinion. But thank you for stopping in, Nanette. Nanette saying, I didn't like the beginning and I haven't seen the movie, but the first 60 minutes. And the reason I don't like it is because I hated the parents. Yeah, I do feel like some of the acting with the parents, especially the dad, Catherine's dad, was just, it was a little cringe. But I mean, for the most part, it was okay. I didn't really have that big of an issue with the acting and stuff like that. I wish things were a little bit more executed. I will say this though, Nanette. Watch the entire film. Watch the entire film and come back and let me know what you think about it. Because again, for me, it's not for me really. But that doesn't mean I can't understand the concept of where he's trying to go, or at least where David was trying to go with these new characters. I get it. Again, it's just like how Halloween ends. I just wish he would fucking execute shit better. Like, this guy had, when you really put his shit in a vacuum And you really look at these last two movies that David Gordon Green did with Halloween Ends and Exorcist Believer, and you look at the concepts that he went with for the story, they're great concepts. They really are. You gotta play it out better. You just gotta play it out better, in my opinion. And hey, some will disagree with me with that. Some might like how Exorcist Believer played out. Some might like how Halloween Ends played out. They might like how the concept of what David came up with, how it played out. Hey, that's cool. That's awesome. If you do like that, that's what's up. The reason why that's what's up is because then that means we're going to get more movies. We're going to keep the franchises going. I will never be against that. You know what I mean? Even if I don't like something, if you like it, that's what's up, man. Like, for real. Because I want people to find pleasure in these movies, even if I don't. Like, I want people to find more positives than negatives in these movies than maybe I might find. So again, go rewatch it, Nanette. Go rewatch it. I will say this: the performance of the girls is worth a rewatch. It is. I will give that. I will tip my hat to that aspect of the film. If you want to see two young girls act their ass off as a possessed demon, as a possessed child, watch Exorcist Believer. Those girls killed it. To me, they're my favorite part of the entire movie. Come on, man. That shit was fucking cool. Like, I may not like what you said, but it's just like they just did such a great job with the makeup and the feel of what a possessed child or a demon is supposed to be. Like, they, in terms of making that aspect feel like the original, they did. They did a great job with that. And one thing I also will point out too, and I know some fans might have been disappointed with this, thought we were probably going to get a little head turning. I'm glad they didn't do that. I'm glad they did not do that, because I'm going to put it this way. I'm glad they didn't have these girls do the exact same mannerisms and the head spinning and the over excessive cussing. I'm glad that they didn't do that with these girls like they did with the Reagan McNeil character, because this demon that is possessing these two girls, it's a completely different entity from Pazuzu in the original. Pazuzu, in my opinion, is like the top guy, because he had no filter. He said whatever he wanted, all that stuff. He was as violent and vicious as you can imagine. Like the mannerisms, the head turning, the throwing up. I'm glad that they didn't sit there and copy those exact same traits and mannerisms from the original, because it also not only gives these girls a different, obviously, personality being possessed, but it gives the demon a different personality than the original. It's not the same demon. It's not Pazuzu. This is an entirely new entity that has taken over. So I really do like that aspect of it, because it did provide some change, for the demon, for the devil, whatever you want to call it. Like, it definitely did provide some change. That was nice. I will say that. And again, even though I'm a huge fan of the original and I'm a fan of the Reagan McNeil character in possessed form, it was cool to not have a demon cussing, because they've done that. So many paranormal movies have copied that from The Exorcist with the demon. I'm gonna fuck you, motherfucker. I'm gonna fucking kill you. You're gonna fucking die. Like, they always have these demons overly excessive with the cuss words and the swear words and stuff like that. Thanks to the original Exorcist, that formula has always been followed. So for David to go away from that formula, I thought that was a nice touch. I will say that. Val saying this movie also showed that it's going to take everyone coming together to defeat the evil. Blumhouse is famous for making social commentary points. You know what, Val? That is a very, very true comment that you stated a few minutes ago. Very true. And I guess I wasn't looking at it from that aspect of the movie, but you make a great point. They really do touch on the social commentary when it comes to their movies. Blumhouse does. You're absolutely right about that. And that it's going to take everyone coming together to defeat evil. Yeah, they definitely did lean back into that that whole stick. They did. You're right about that. And let's you guys, I don't like to get too political, but it's just it's stuff like that. It's like I'm not against it. It's not that I'm 100% against it. It's just like I'm so used to horror movies to where we don't need a mob of people to stop evil. We had we didn't need Dr. Loomis to have a mob to shoot that gun at Michael Myers. We didn't need Sidney Prescott to have a mob of people around her to defeat Billy Loomis or defeat Mickey Altieri. She had a little bit of help, yeah, sure. But we didn't need to sit there and, grab all these extra people to do all this shit to stop evil. I'm used to horror movies to where we have one, maybe two protagonists who do come together and stop the evil. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fucking the whole fucking mob of Haddonfield. I'm just used to those old school way of they did horror movies. We got our definitive final girl, we have our definitive final guy, we have our definitive friend in the group who's going to return for the next movie that we love so much. That's what I'm used to. I'm not used to, all this, oh, well, I'm going to bring this character in and tell the story, and now I'm going to bring this character in and tell a story, and then I'm going to converge it with this character's story, because at the end of the day, their story is to band together and defeat this evil all together. I don't know. I don't think I'm feeling that too much. I get it in terms of the concept. Again, human beings coming together to stop evil and stuff like that. I get that, but it's like you don't need that in horror movies. We've thrived for years without having that narrative. We have. So that's just my take on it. But again, Val, a very great point that you made for sure. Oh, yes. He's the most cringiest fucking character in the movie. He's so annoying. Very, very annoying. Very annoying. I'm not gonna lie, when I was watching it and he's all going off or whatever and this and that, I'm just like, man, why the fuck did they have this guy? It would have hit more to me if Catherine's mom would have been, if Miranda was a single mother, because Victor was a single father. It would have made more sense if you would have had Jennifer Nettles' character Miranda and she was a single mother. It would have hit different. It would have hit better, in my opinion. We didn't need the dad. We didn't. You know what I mean? It would have hit from the notion that, okay, now you have two single parents, not just one like they had in the original with Chris McNeil. You have two single parents who have to battle this entity and figure out why their daughters became possessed in the first place. It would have been better for storytelling purposes, in my opinion. Yo, what up, Michael Joe? It's good to see you, man. Long time no see. I'm glad you stopped in. I hope you're having a great day and I hope you're doing well. Michael saying Blumhouse trash. I don't want to say they're trash. I just think that I think what Blumhouse does, what they're about is making that money. They're about making money. So if they're going to churn out movies that, basically 100%, I want to say 100%. If they're going to turn out horror movies that they know diehard old school horror fans like us, how can I word this? Like they know they have a certain niche audience. I'll say that. They have a niche audience. So if they know they can make millions and millions and billions of dollars off a niche audience by releasing movies that us OG horror fans really don't want to see, but you're catering to that new niche and that new audience, the more PG-13, high school kids, the Insidiouses, those type of movies. If they can keep making a dime, a hefty dime, off of lower budgeted movies like that, why wouldn't they? You know, I don't think they're 100% trash. Do some of their movies hit for me? No, but there has been some good Blumhouse movies. We can't sit here and act like there hasn't been any good Blumhouse movies. There has been. So it's basically up down. You'll get a good one, you get a bad, you know, and stuff. So if there's anything I wish Blumhouse would do a little bit better is listen, I get it. You have a niche, you have an audience that you're trying to cater to, but you also have old school horror fans that you should be wanting to cater to as well. Because at the end of the day, us diehards are going to show up more than the casuals. And that's the truth. But again, Michael, thank you for commenting, and it's good to see you, man. Hey, what's up? See, I know, guys, I'm behind in the chat, so I'm just catching up with everybody. I'm going through all you guys' comments and stuff like that. I'm not going to rush to the top. I'm just going to read everything, that I missed or whatnot, and then work my way back up to the beginning of the chat. But to the end of the chat, I should say. But what up, Destin? What's up, bro? I hope you're having a great day, my man. Destination Station is saying, I'm curious where the sequel goes. The ending was the best part. I mean, I will say this. It's going to be interesting to see where the next one goes without David Gordon Green, because I spoke about it a little bit ago. I'm assuming you were here for that, Destin. With David Gordon Green not returning, we don't even know if these newer characters in this story is going to get finished, if it's going to be brought back, what. We don't. I like the concept. Again, it's just the execution of the entire movie was just piss poor, in my opinion. But the whole twist of Victor being tricked into believing that saving his daughter was going to save Catherine as well, I do like that. I do. It just ruined it for me with them talking that bullshit in the trailer about, one of these girls is going to live and one of them is going to die. Just it completely took away that for me. But I guess I'd have to agree, especially if they didn't take away, or especially if they didn't put that in the trailer about the twist about who was going to live and who was going to die. I have to agree the ending was the best part of the film. Hell yeah. In the final act, like the last 20, 30 minutes of the movie is where we get the most action. That's what's up. And that saying, from all the movies I hated from them, I have to agree with you there, Michael. I mean, listen. Listen, man. This is why I say it's not all bad. Like, Halloween 2018 was a really good sequel. I don't know how you feel about Halloween 2018, Michael Joe. I assume you enjoyed that one more than Kills and more than Halloween Ends. But to say you don't want them touching any horror classics, I mean, it's really, I'm going to put it this way, man. In that regard, you really can't blame Blumhouse. They're just publishing and producing the product. That's the thing about Blumhouse. And even Christopher Landon said this. They allow you to make the movie you want to make, which means there's no meddling. There's no meddling. Make the movie you want to make. You just got to do it fast. I like that because we don't have studios like that. You know it. Look at what Spyglass has done to Scream. Look at that. You don't have many studios that's willing to be like, yo, make your movie. I'm not going to interfere. Just make sure you finish it quickly. Okay. I mean, I personally wouldn't like to rush through a project, but if I already have my premise and I already have everything set in stone on what I want to do and what direction I want to go in for whatever project I'm doing, okay, let's lock this shit out. Like, I mean, I get it. Do you want them touching every horror classic? No. But I mean, we can't sit there and act like Halloween 2018 wasn't a great film and wasn't, in my opinion, it's going to turn out to be a classic in its own right. And Blumhouse had their hands on that one. So, I mean, I don't blame Blumhouse for what happened to Halloween in the Halloween franchise. At least with these last 3 movies or how the last trilogy ended on. That was David Gordon Green, in my opinion. You can't blame Blumhouse for that. They let him make his movie. They let him tell the story he wanted to tell. They allowed him to use the concept he wanted to use. So that isn't a Blumhouse issue, in my opinion. So I guess what I'm saying is if it was me, I personally wouldn't be against Blumhouse touching another horror classic franchise because Halloween 2018 was really, really good. And Halloween Kills, whether the social commentary, you like it or not, Halloween Kills really wasn't a bad movie either. If you just get rid of some of the social commentary stuff, a lot of people would love that movie. Absolutely love it if you get rid of the social commentary shit. And now, if you're talking about Blumhouse doing classic horror movies in that regard, while adding their brand of social commentary to it, then I can see why you wouldn't want them, touching any horror classics and stuff like that. But I personally, I think that has more to do with the creator and the creative team more than it has to do with Blumhouse. But that's just my take, buddy. That's just me. Destin, smash that like button like I'm smashing this cheeseburger. That's right, brother. I appreciate it, man. You got some lettuce, tomato, and onion on that bad boy? Shit. Now you're making me want to go make a fucking burger now, man. See, man, look. Shit. Damn it. Man, it just made me fucking hungry. I could go for a fucking Big Mac or a double quarter pound with cheese. Let's go. Shit. Or one of them Sonic burgers. What? Let me ask y'all something in the chat real quick before we get more back into this Exorcist talk. Have y'all ever eaten at Sonic? Have you ever had a Sonic double cheeseburger? Because I have. Plenty of times. I used to work at a Sonic. Let me tell you, man, McDonald's ain't fucking with Sonic. Yo, Sonic, in my opinion, in terms of like fast food restaurants and places you go to get a burger and stuff like that, to me, I don't know what type of fucking patty they use. I never got that far into asking that question. But Sonic's double fucking cheeseburgers, their fucking patties, the best. That shit hits. Now, I do want to try Wahlburgers. Mark Wahlberg's brother's shit, his restaurant. But there ain't none around my area. So maybe when I, go to a convention or whenever I'm out of state, if they have one, I'll have to visit and, maybe do a little video about that. You know what I mean? Just to, share with you guys on Instagram or something like that. But as of right now, for me, the best cheeseburger out there is fucking Sonic's. Sonic's be hitting, boy. Damn, I'm gonna have to go visit them motherfuckers. I'm gonna have to go back. Shit. I need me a fucking double cheeseburger with some bacon, some onion, some Asiago butter if they brought that bitch back. What? A fucking what they call it? The Great Red Bull Slush. Woo! Oh my god. Y'all get me started on some shit. Let me get back to the chat. Let me get back to talking about some Exorcists. Yo, damn it, Destin. Like shit. You're about to have me make a phone call after this stream. Like shit. I agree. Yes, I agree. Michael Joe saying, I'm kind of glad Miramax got the rights to Halloween again. Me too. Me too. Michael said, I would have directed this movie and it would have been better. Hey, man. I mean, there's always fan films, my friend. Okay. Destin, I don't know what the fuck. I don't know where your brain's at right now, brother. But I don't know, man. Destin's saying it would be weird, but someone should make a porn. Yeah. You know what the number one scene that's going to be used, right? You know what number one scene is going to be used? The tongue scene. You know that, Dustin. You know somebody would do that. Yo, Dustin, you ain't right, man. That's crazy. That's funny shit, though. That's funny as fuck. Destin saying, I didn't like how the connection to the original was. Oh, felt shoehorned in and not the way I wanted it to go. I hope it's going somewhere good. Man, I liked the original, man. I liked it. I liked how they basically got into that connection on how she becomes possessed. I think it was a slow burn. I think it was properly done. It's so easy for, in my opinion, it's just so easy for a filmmaker to just say, okay, I want to do a paranormal movie. I want to do a possession movie. Okay, so this is how I'm going to have my main character become possessed and make it just happen so fast. You know what I mean? Like, it happened so fast. I like the fact that the original, it took its time. The reason why I like that is because it was showing us and allowing us to see that this entity was a manipulator. He wasn't just an entity, he was a manipulator. He was creeping his way into slowly taking over this little girl's frame. I like that aspect of it because I don't want a quick possession. I don't want something that's just like, all right, so that's just it. That's how you got that to that point. I like the fact that there was a connection of this is, Captain Howdy or whatever the fuck his name is. I think I'm right about that. Or whatever. But this is so and so. And he's been my friend for a while now, my imaginary friend that I speak to and stuff like that. Just there, it shows that there's not only like the demon wasn't just there to possess Reagan. It was also in so many ways, I feel like, determining whether this was the right vessel to take over. How easy was this? How easy is this vessel to manipulate? You know what I mean? Like, there was a friendship that this entity was building with Reagan before we got her actually being possessed. I like that storytelling. Me personally, I like that. I thought that was a cool aspect to the original. It wasn't just, oh yeah, well, you know what? My mom passed away. I really would still love to connect with her. Well, there's this book or whatever that could possibly make me connect with her. And now, within minutes, I'm possessed. Go through a few flashbacks, go through a few visions, stuff like that. Now, within 2-3 minutes, I'm possessed. I don't always like that. I like the fact that there was a slow build to that possession. It cooked. In so many ways, he was cooking her. You know what I mean? Slowly cooking her, just like that burger. You know what I mean? He was slowly cooking her before he eventually, you know what I mean, went full well done and took over. If that makes sense. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, man, like for me personally, I love the original. I love how they segued into everything. I love the deep storytelling. I love how we get all that extended time, even though it is a slow burn and stuff. I love the fact that we get Chris McNeil's story as well. She's a single mother. She's a famous Hollywood actress who we see also not just having problems with her daughter, but she's having problems with just in life in general. She's, struggling to maintain her fucking sanity, in all aspects of life. I love that aspect of it, and I felt like Believer could benefit more from that type of slow burn storytelling, maybe extended time, so on and so forth. But again, and I'm glad I'm having this conversation with you guys, because already by having this conversation with you guys, I look at Exorcist Believer a lot differently than when I looked at it even a few days ago. I look at this movie as actually having more potential that is untapped. I just hope, if we're going to continue down this path that I talked about, the deceiver route, the whole trick is that Victor thinks that now that he believes in God, that he won and he saved his daughter. But he really didn't, because not only did he sacrifice Catherine in doing so, this entity is going to come back and repossess his daughter. If we're going to go in that direction, I just hope we get a director who sees this concept and is like, I like the concept. This is how this is how we get this. This is how we maximize this concept. And this is how we not only make it make sense, but we make it cool. And we make it formidable and consumable to watch. And I think there is only one man for that job. And that is the great James Wan. Yes, Val mentioned it earlier in the stream, and I'm going to talk about it now. In my opinion, James Wan should be the next director for The Exorcist Deceiver. If we are going to get Exorcist Deceiver, if Blumhouse decides that they still want to continue this trilogy, James Wan is the best pick. You look at what he did with the Conjuring movies. And Val, if you're still here, I want to say this now. Thank you. And I think Destin too. Yeah, thank you and Destin, both of you, for putting me on to the fucking Conjuring movies. Because those movies are fantastic for the most part. Yes, 3 and 4, well, 4 is about to come out. 3 wasn't as great. And then what did they had The Nun. Not really a big fan of the Nun movies, so on and so forth. Not really a fan of the Conjuring universe movies like Annabelle, all them. But the Conjuring movies, 1, 2, so on and so forth, that reinvigorated my love to want to rewatch more paranormal movies. Because you guys know this. I've said it many times here on the channel. I'm a slasher through and through. The only reason why I don't love paranormal movies the way I did was because we got into many of them over the last 2 decades. And it's literally like the same type of shit. And it got old and it got stale to me. Watching The Conjuring and watching what James Wan did with that franchise and with that movie, it reinvigorated my want and my thirst and my urge to want to see some more creepy ass fucking demons, some more paranormal, some more possessions. And that's why going into Exorcist Believer, especially as we got closer, I was getting excited. I'm like, man, I'm actually excited to see this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because of what James Wan did with The Conjuring. I was hoping that David Gordon Green in so many ways would have took notes. But you can only have the master do master things. So that's why James Wan, in my opinion, is the perfect is the perfect pick for take a sip of water quick, much it's cracking. But James Wan is the perfect pick for Exorcist Deceiver. He understands what a possession movie is supposed to look like. He understands what a possession movie is supposed to feel like. He captures everything in terms of what a possession film is supposed to be. And he's just a phenomenal talent. He's arguably the best director over the last 20 years since Saw came out, since he did Saw. Some might argue with that, and I wouldn't be against you for disagreeing with that. But in my opinion, he has to be at least in that conversation of top 3 at best directors in the last 20 years. And he's just so damn creative. That's what I love the most about James Wan. He is so creative with his movies. He is one of those guys, he's willing to try new things, but he's going to make sure those new things make sense. And let's take a quick second, guys. Let the dogs bark. Let him get the little bark session off. Calm down, guys. Come on. Rosie, come here, baby. Rosie, come here. Hi, Oreo. Hi, Don. And here goes the jealousy. But anyway, so James Wan, to me, is, in my opinion, the only man who could direct Exorcist Deceiver or any Exorcist movie, and it will come out fantastic. Again, I could be wrong. If you guys have anybody else in mind, let me know. You know what I mean? Me personally, it's James Wan or nothing. Not saying I won't go watch it. Not saying I won't go watch Exorcist Deceiver. But if it's not James Wan doing it, I would be heavily disappointed. And this is a thing to point out as well. And I mentioned it earlier, and I'm going to mention it now. James Wan has that deal with Blumhouse to where they're like partners and pushing out a whole bunch of new horror content. So it makes all the sense in the world for James Wan to be taking over The Exorcist, Deceiver, and possibly the third one. And I'm 100% on board with it. And it'll be an easy transition because now Blumhouse wouldn't have to go out and look for a director that they're unfamiliar with. This is a guy who they have a partnership with. So, again, I really hope James Wan does signs up for Exorcist Deceiver. I really do. But I want to know what you guys think. Who should be the next director for Exorcist Deceiver? Who would you guys like to see direct the second installment of this planned trilogy that David Gordon Green has now exited? Interested to see what you guys have to say. Who you guys' picks would be. Again, it's James Wan for me. Rosie, you got to calm down, baby. You hear people every day. Yeah, I agree. Yes, Val, I really hope so too. And it's an easy transition. He works with Blumhouse. I apologize for the barking, you guys. You guys know how Rosie gets as soon as she hears people in the background coming in through the doors and stuff like that. There's no chill on this dog. Yeah, absolutely, Val. Again, thank you so much. Like, those films are fucking fire. Especially, like, again, I know some may disagree with this, but The Conjuring 2, that's my shit. That's my favorite one. I love The Conjuring 2. Love The Conjuring 2. And I just wish they would, with these Nun movies, I wish they would present the Nun the way they do in the Conjuring movies. I don't understand what's the problem here. Like, I don't get what's going on. Like, I really don't. Like, I just feel like with the Nun movies, she's less intimidating in her own movies than she is in the Conjuring movies. I don't know. Beats me how that happens. Excuse me again. That's right, Val. Val's saying, and Blumhouse already has them in their wheelhouse. Would be a waste not to use that to the fullest. Yeah. to the fullest potential. Yeah, absolutely. I 1,000% agree with that. And it would. Could you imagine if James Wan signs up for the Exorcist Deceiver? Not only are you going to make diehard Exorcist fans happy, but you're going to bring the Conjuring universe fans with you. You're going to bring the Insidious universe fans with you. All these fans who are fans of James Wan's work are going to come and watch this Exorcist movie because he's doing it. If they were to get him to do it. Like, he's bringing in all this new audience as well, especially from the Conjuring universe. I'd like to think most people who are fans of Conjuring might have been a fan of the original Exorcist, but maybe not because of the time, the time frame where the Conjuring came out. What was it? 2000. The first one came out, what, 2010, I think? Let me look that up. Okay, 2013. So The Conjuring comes out in 2013. So James Wan is bringing that generation, the newer generation from 2013 and beyond, and stuff that were probably teenagers or whatnot that are probably now adults, 10 and 11 years later. He's bringing that audience from that franchise with him to the Exorcist franchise. The moment they see his name pop up from the director of The Conjuring, James Wan, those fans, and then they see The Exorcist and they see this is going to be a possession movie, those fans who may not be familiar with the original Exorcist or the Exorcist franchise in general, they're going to fucking flock in groves. Why? Because it's James Wan and he's making another possession type movie and we love The Conjuring. So if The Conjuring was great, this should be great too because he's the one behind the fucking chair. So again, that's my hope. That is my hope, Val. I really hope that James Wan takes over the Exorcist franchise in these next two films. Dominic St. Clair saying from Saw to Dead Silence to Conjuring films to Megan to hopefully Exorcist Deceiver. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I think he's the perfect choice. He's the perfect fit. It fits like a glove. All right, guys, we have about 18 minutes left here on the stream, here on this episode of the podcast. Keep in mind that I am also going to be going live at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time for another episode of the podcast, for episode part 3, as I will be covering Terrifier films 1 and 2, doing a spoiler review on those two films, while also sharing some of my theories for the upcoming Terrifier 3. So that is definitely going to be a lot of fun to go over. I cannot wait to talk about some Terrifier. But we got about 17 minutes now left in this stream. I'm going to, finish answering you guys' comments, finish answering you guys' questions and stuff, and then we're going to proceed to end up wrapping things up. If you haven't done so already, definitely shoot this episode of the podcast a like. It definitely helps out with the YouTube algorithm a ton. And if you do happen to be a new viewer coming across this channel, shoot that subscribe button followed by the bell icon so you get all the latest content updates to the channel, as well as if you would like to join I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel, shoot over to the channel dashboard, shoot that join button that you see there on the dashboard, and become a member. I will say this, and I'm actually going to put a post out there later for all of my members. I will be switching up my membership perks. I will be making things a lot cheaper, and I will be dropping down the tiers, like in terms of how many tiers I have. So I think I have about 5 or 6 tiers. I'm going to a 3-tier system. I'm going to make sure everything is cheaper and stuff like that. The $2 and the $5 memberships will remain, but that last tier will be my highest tier, and it will be a lot cheaper than what I have it set for now. So, guys, turn your notifications on if you don't have them turned on, and keep an eye out for the community page so you guys receive that post in the members only post that I will share later on. Because I definitely want to look out for you guys, especially you guys who stuck with me here through hard times, when I wasn't able to, go live, and when I wasn't able to stream. I had a couple months there when I wasn't able to do anything. You guys all stuck with me and didn't leave. You guys stayed subscribed. You guys stayed a member. And I am forever grateful and humbled by that. So I want to do right by you guys. I want to show you guys some love, show my gratitude for you guys' support. Oh, well, this is interesting. The Video Master 64 Reborn. What's up? Hope you're having a great day. Thank you for stopping in. Saying, I would love to see a Jason Voorhees versus Michael Myers versus Mark Hoffman movie. Well, I agree with the latter. The first two, Jason versus Michael. I love some Mark Hoffman. Don't get me wrong. That's my guy. I love the Saw franchise. Love his character. He's not lasting a millisecond with those two fucking monsters. He's just not. They have something he don't, which is a supernatural aspect to him. He's straight human through and through. So my boy Costas ain't lasting too long against these two behemoths. Ooh. Whoa. I did not think about that, Val. And that is a great choice as well. Scott Derrickson. Yeah, the director for Black Phone. Yep. Scott Derrickson would be another great director for Deceiver. He directed another amazing possession movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Yes, he did do that movie. Now, that is one of the more Exorcist type films I actually like. Exorcism of Emily Rose is really, really good. That's one of the paranormal movies that came out in the mid-2000s that I actually enjoyed watching. But very, very good point there, Val. Scott Derrickson, yes, absolutely. Yeah, he would be a great choice for Deceiver. He's another one who has that experience in dealing with the supernatural aspects and, knowing what a supernatural movie is supposed to be, a possession movie is supposed to be. And it's worth to note, that we most likely will be getting a little bit of supernatural element with the Black Phone, because the Grabber is returning and it is a sequel. It's not a prequel. It is a sequel. So that tells me that the Grabber, even though we saw him get his neck snapped and he died in the original Black Phone, that tells me he might come back as a demon of sorts. Maybe the demon that, the mask that he wears, that type of entity will take over his, his vessel. But yes, fantastic comment though, Val. I don't know why I did not think about Scott Derrickson. That would be another great choice for Deceiver. Yo, what's up, Wayne? Hope you're having a great day, buddy. Wayne stopping in saying hi all. It is 7:07 a.m. Thursday here in Sydney, Australia. Sadly, I can't stay long. Well, I'm just putting in words there. Sadly, I can't stay. Have to get ready for work. Hey, I feel you, man. Hey, well, Wayne, it was definitely, thank you so much for the comment. And I greatly appreciate you stopping in, man. I always enjoy seeing you here in the chat. And I always love the time and location reports from Sydney, man. I enjoy the shit out of that. And you enjoy your day at work, man. I mean, it's work, so I know. But hey, you get that money, my friend. Get that money. Nanette saying James Wan is a good director, and I definitely think he should direct the next Exorcist movie. I agree. But I'm not even going to lie. If James Wan don't do it, I like Val's pick of Scott Derrickson. If he were to do it, I'm not going to be mad. I know a few minutes ago I said the only man to do it would be James Wan, but now that just kind of, blew up in fucking smoke. That blew up in my face because Scott Derrickson is another great, fantastic choice to direct the next Exorcist film, and I'm on board for it. Again, because we got 10 minutes left in the stream, guys, I like the concept of Exorcist Believer. I really do, especially now I've had this conversation with you guys, and I got to go down the rabbit hole and really delve into what the concept is supposed to be and stuff. I like it. I like it a lot. I just want it presented and executed better. That's all. My main hope for the next movie, if they're going to continue with Exorcist Deceiver, Let's not try to do too many things at once. It's like Danielle Harris said a few weeks ago in her interview about horror movies, about these studios. Keep it simple. You don't have to overdo it. Keep it simple and give the fans what they want. It's really as simple as that. It really is. It may come off across as, oh, that ain't that easy. It really is. What as a wrestling fan, one of the main things I'll never forget this when Stephanie McMahon said this in one of her interviews. We've always done, for the most part, we haven't always done it 100%, but for the most part, we listen to our audience. That's what these studios and these filmmakers have to do. There's nothing wrong with listening. There's nothing wrong with making your movie. Nothing wrong with making your movie at all. But don't forget what brought you to the dance. There's nothing wrong with listening to your audience, because your audience are telling you what they want. They're telling you what they want to see. So that's what I hope for the next Exorcist film, guys. I really just hope that they give the audience what the audience wants to see. You get us a director who is going to continue this concept or create a new concept, one way or another. Let's get a new director in there. Hopefully somebody with credibility within these type of movies like Scott Derrickson or James Wan. And let's revitalize the Exorcist franchise. Like, I'm not going to lie to you guys, it really did hurt my soul seeing a lot of those negative reviews before I even watched The Exorcist Believer. I've seen a lot. I took a look at the reviews. I'm just like, man, a lot of people do not like this movie, man. And maybe a little bit that painted my perception going into it, which is why I watched it again. And I just felt the same way as I did when I first watched it. You know, there was just too much clutter that just didn't need to be. Too much clutter. Hopefully, some of that clutter gets smoothed out if they are going to do Exorcist Deceiver. So, again, I just hope it gets straightened out, because I love this franchise, and I think that this franchise still has a lot to give to the horror genre. I really do. Wayne, James Wan, never heard of him, my fellow Australian. That's right. He's the man, man. He's such a talented dude, man. He's just very creative. And that's why, for me, I really would love to see him take over the Exorcist franchise. All right, guys, we got about 7 minutes left here on this stream. And also, do me a favor, guys, again, keep in mind that I will be going live again in another hour doing a spoiler review for Terrifier 1 and Terrifier 2. So if you guys haven't done so already, shoot over to that stream right now, that episode of the podcast, and shoot it a like. It definitely helps out with the algorithm. The goal for these podcast episodes are 35 likes. I posted about it last night in my schedule post. So if we can get 35 likes or better on these podcast episodes, it really does help, because then that helps the algorithm continue to push this stream and this episode of the podcast through, so new viewers can catch it and can see it and see what we have cooking up here. See what I have cooking up here over at ISH6XS YouTube Horror Movie channel. The next saying, the thing I wanted to advertise is a game from Google Play Store that I think you would be interested in. Okay, yeah, let me know what's up, Nanette. What game you talking about? Wayne, you enjoy your day at work, man. You be safe, my friend, and I will see you soon. Wayne saying, sadly, I got to go. Enjoy all. Again, enjoy the rest of your day, my friend. Thank you for stopping in. Excuse me. The Video Master 64 Reborn says, I would also love to see. Man, having a difficult time with these damn burps. The Video Master 64 Reborn says, I would also love to see a John Kramer versus Pinhead versus the Tall Man. Man, I'll say this. Like, Pinhead and Tall Man would be a great matchup because they both have that supernatural entity about them. Who I would love to see John Kramer go up against would be Hannibal Lecter. Those two brilliant, psychotic minds going at it, playing cat and mouse with each other, sign me up. I would love to see John Kramer versus Hannibal Lecter. That'd be crazy. Okay, I'm assuming. I don't know if you're heading out. Okay, no, I see you still in chats. You were saying have a good night to win. Okay, I wasn't sure. I was about to say I thought you were heading out for a second in that. Dominic St. Clair says, "What about the director of the taking of Deborah Logan?" I've never watched that, so maybe something I'll have to catch up on, and I'll get back to you on that, Dom, and let you know what I think. The Taking of Deborah Logan. Let me look it up real quick. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Shit came back out. This came out in 2014. Yeah, I knew nothing about this. Horror documentary. Ooh. Never heard about this. Huh. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out. Okay, it's free on Vudu. It's AMC, Sling TV, Tubi. Okay, I'm gonna definitely give this a watch, Dom, and see what's up. And I'll hit you up on Instagram and let you know what I feel about the director of this movie as well. Looks interesting from the posters and the images I'm seeing. Nanette saying the Exorcism of Emily Rose is a good movie, but I don't like it. But I do not like any kind of that thing that it has to do with court trials. Gotcha. Hey, I understand. Hey, it's not for everybody. You know, I understand that. Dominic St. Clair saying, I believe Hoffman can fight Ghostface or Leatherface since these two are human. Absolutely. Yeah, that would be fun. Hoffman versus Ghostface. I mean, and for anybody who says, "Oh, he wouldn't stand a chance," go back and watch Saw. What was it? Saw 6. Go watch Saw 6 when they unscramble his voice that he basically used John Kramer's voice to overlap his, and they unscramble it and find out it's him who killed Seth Baxter. Go watch that scene. Go watch that scene and tell me Mark Hoffman wouldn't stand a chance from Ghostface. He would. His slashing game is on point. His slashing game is definitely on point. Yeah, James Wong. James Wong? That name sounds familiar. Or are you talking about James Wan, Dominic, and it's just a typo? Oh, no. I see it. Huh. Okay, he's a Hong Kong American television producer. Ooh, X-Files retrospective. Okay. Huh. And Final Destination. Oh, wow. The one? Holy shit. This motherfucker's got man movies I didn't know about. Wow. And he's like in the genre. Like he's Final Destination. Willard, that's my shit. That's underrated in my opinion. That's an underrated creepy ass movie. Okay. Yeah. The one with Jet Li, that was a good action flick. Yeah, you can add James Wong to the list because Final Destination, that's a great film. Yeah, I'm looking at his credits. Yeah, I think he would be a good pick as well. Black Christmas 2006. Okay. Yeah. And he did the X-Files. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's definitely, you could definitely throw his name in the hat as well. Definitely. Yeah, I'm on board. So we got James Wan, James Wong, and Scott Derrickson as 3 choices that we've come up with in this stream, in this episode of the podcast, for who could take over the Exorcist Believer. I'm on board with it. Love it. Love those ideas. Love those picks. Yeah, he would really be good for the Exorcist, though. James Wong, because he has that X-Files, that type of shit under his belt, the Final Destination, all that. Yeah, he'd be really, really good for Exorcist. Yeah, definitely. That's a great choice, Dom. I knew I heard that name before. The Video Master 64 Reborn saying, yeah, I would love to see a Hoffman versus Leatherface movie. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, obviously Hoffman would have to, learn to stick a move. He don't want to get caught by that fucking big ass chainsaw. But outside of that, he's got a shot. He definitely has a shot against Leatherface because that's all Leatherface really does is use a chainsaw. But it also determines on who's playing Leatherface. Because if it's 2003 Leatherface, yeah, I don't know. He might fuck Hoffman up. Okay, so Nanette says, and I'm going to end it here. I'm going to end it on these next 2 comments that I see. So Nanette says, if anyone is interested in a game for your phone, go check out Halloween Match Made by Terror. It gets Michael Myers in it. What? Okay. I guess I got a new game to check out then, huh? Shit. You said Michael Myers in that. You already know what time it is. Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna definitely check that out. And anybody who's interested in having any new games for your phones, especially horror themed games, go check out that game that Nanette was just talking about. Halloween Match Made by Terror. Huh, that's interesting. Dominic St. Clair saying, don't forget he killed a whole police station in Saw 7. That is very, very true. And it's interesting you brought that up, Dom, because I actually have the thumbnail put together. I just got to obviously put the video and the audio and everything together. But I have interesting reservations about not only Hoffman, but about the direction they could go in for Saw 12 or the next Spiral movie. And it has something to do basically with Shank and who could potentially be his accomplice or his leader, if you will. Can't wait to do that video. I really can't. Once I can get everything else out the way and do what I need to do and stuff like that, I'm going to hunker down and really focus on that video. Yeah, Dom, I've seen that. I've seen that here on his credits that he did 2 Final Destination films. Yeah, so James Wong is definitely a great choice. Again, Dom, fantastic choice that you put there in the comment section. I definitely do think this guy, because again, Willard with Crispin Glover, that's one of my favorite PG-13 horror movies of all time. It's more creepy and cringy and suspenseful than it is horror, but I still count it as horror because they count it as horror. And Crispin Glover actually said that there was supposed to be an R-rated Willard, but that the studio made them dumb a lot of shit down, to which is why we got PG-13. So I'm interested to see what James Wong had in the R-rated version of Willard. Hoffman versus the Terminator. Yeah, I don't know, buddy. I can just see Arnold rolling right up to Costas being like, "Hasta la vista, baby." It just, I don't know, man. It's funny shit though. It'll make an interesting conversation for sure. It would make an interesting conversation. Yeah, I agree, Nanette. Nanette saying, I'm not sure Hoffman could take on the Terminator. Yeah, I don't know. That might be a little bit more for him, a little bit too much for him to chew off. A little bit too much. But hey, if there's one thing I will give Mark Hoffman credit for, is he would try. He would definitely try. That is for sure. He would try to take out the Terminator. But all right, everyone, this was definitely a fun episode of the podcast. I greatly appreciate every single one of you stopping in, hanging out, sharing your thoughts. Again, this was a fun time. I have a whole new different perspective on at least on the concept of Exorcist Believer. And I'm just really hoping that if we are going to get Exorcist Deceiver, we get a good director, we get a good writer who's going to take this concept and take this story and really focus on this particular story and embellish it so that we can really enjoy it. Because again, I feel like David Gordon Green, the concept is right. It's just the execution wasn't executed properly. So hopefully that gets fixed up for Exorcist Deceiver if we do get Exorcist Deceiver. But all right, everybody, I'm going to head out of here for this episode of the podcast. Be sure to check me out in less than an hour at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to be going for episode 3 of the podcast, Terrifier 1, Terrifier 2, spoiler review, plus Terrifier 3 spoiler, Terrifier 3 theories and predictions for the upcoming third film. So I will see you guys hopefully very, very soon. Catch you in the next one, guys.
You are now watching I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel.
I shot him 6 times.